Well, hello, everyone. I am so honored to be here with my bestie from the Westie. I don't know why I've just said that, it just came out. Um, Helen Armstrong. Helen and I have known each other for, I don't know, many lifetimes, but this go round, I don't know, 18 years or
Yep.
so. We met in corporate back in 2004. And then Helen was instrumental in the journey that I went through with my health when we reconnected in California. And then we did an astrology reading and we found out that we literally arrived here on the same light beam. Not many can say that. So we call ourselves the Light Beam Sisters.
Whee!
And Helen has just been instrumental for me in reminding me to not take myself so seriously and to have fun. So she's the fun one. Maybe I need to stop saying that.
Yeah,
That
stop
was
saying that. You're
she is
manifesting that.
she's fun and she's light and airy, and she also is an amazing healer. So thank you, Helen, for being here. And if you want to add anything to that intro, feel free to
Thank
jump in,
you.
share a little bit about your background if you could.
Yeah. Well, I know I did a show with you. Gosh, it's been probably about a year. So we talked then a lot about the my background, growing up in a very conservative, reserved British family, going into corporate America, being there for 27 years. Jenn coming and magically reconnecting with me when I was working in California. She was traveling back and forth. That was 2015. And Jenn has an amazing gift for looking people in the eye and just saying, you're a healer, right? Um, and I was like, what are you talking about? And it's really just been game on since then. So I'm so honored to be here. I'm honored to have Jenn in my life. She is fun and she is magical. You just have to pry it out of her sometimes. Just kidding. And I think that goes to Jenn has a huge mission here in this lifetime. It's to wake people up, it's to bring plants to them, it's to bring healing, it's to teach people about energy. So that is it's a lot of work. So being serious sometimes is necessary, but I also think we can infuse some fun and we're here to have a human experience. So we're good for each other at kind of bouncing off each other in that way.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Let's talk about energy. So share a little bit, Helen, from your perspective, what you've learned about energy and how you work with it when you're working with people.
Yep. So, Jenn and I teach a class together and we just started a new cohort. And that's the first thing we share with people is that everything is energy. And we feel like these massive physical beings and creatures, and we automatically go to the physical, but we're, 99.999% energy and whatever the 0.0001 physical. And what I always remind people is when you learn about cells in school, there's a cell, it's got a nucleus, some mitochondria, some of those other things we learned about, but the rest of it's just space. So when you put all of those things together, even though I feel like a big physical thing, I'm actually predominantly energy. And so we have the ability to shift our energy. We have the ability to connect into the universal field. We have the ability to tap into realms that are outside of this physical world. And we all have that ability. I think just some of us learn sooner or later than others to kind of tap into it and how to use that energy to create healing, to create peace, and to create calm.
So how do we help people stay out of fear, right? Because there are a lot of judgments around energy and tapping into energy. And is it evil or dark? Or, we have these judgments of that's bad. And yet we're born this way, right? It is our innate gift that we have that
Yep.
we can connect into the Davic world, right? Which are the plants and the fairies and the gnomes and the light beings that we see when we take pictures. So talk a little bit about that piece for yourself, and then how do you support the clients that you work with that are afraid? Like, what do you mean you saw this or you felt that? So
Yeah.
share a
Yeah.
little bit.
I'm just very clear, and I set my intention, and I know you do the same, that the messages that I receive and the energy that I'm moving is all God created, God given, and coming from source. So, whatever term you want to use, for me, I typically do use God, source, universal light. I'm very clear that I am only calling that in, I'm only open to that. And Jenn, I do see dark things, and I do see entity, or feel, sense those things. But I think that is, I mean, we are in the midst of a spiritual war at the moment where, there is light and there is darkness or evil, whatever term you want to use. And so it's being clear that I'm on the light side, and my job is to help protect myself, the people that I work with. It's all God created to me. So the physical world here, the diva, the gnomes, the fairies, that energy to me is all universal light and God created. I would love to hear how you would add to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you that if part of it is about setting your intention and being clear, and having clear energy yourself, right? Like, we make sure that we have clean and clear energy, and we have a lot of tools that we utilize, like crystals and flower essences and sprays,
Yeah.
all the things to keep our energy light and aligned to that God source. And self-awareness, right? We've talked about this, is I think also knowing, like, if I am feeling down, which is very rare, but if, I didn't sleep or something's going on, I'm like, okay, I need to check myself. Should I still be working with this person today? Or should I reschedule so that I'm in my brightest, most vibrant self? Because
Yeah.
that's what it is, right? It's a vibration, it's a frequency,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
Yeah. And Jenn and I just both listen. Jenn brought it to my attention, but just listened to a podcast with Greg Braden on the Joe Rogan show. So that'll timestamp us. But he brought something up. I mean, our healing clinic is called Divine Health Alliance, and Jenn is the founder, and that name came to her. But he gave a whole definition of divinity that gave me chills. And it's just really that we all have this innate light and wisdom within us. And, our society and even some of the constructs of the world we live in, whether it's, politics, religion, etc., have closed some of that knowing and learning off. And
I
now
would
is the
actually
time,
say most of it. It's
most of
closed
it.
off most
Yeah.
of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And
I
go
want to
ahead.
go ahead. I just want to add, because you called it out, is I actually wrote the definition down. I typed it into my phone when I was listening to the podcast, and he says divinity is the ability to transcend perceived limitations,
Yeah.
right?
So I just got chills. I just got chills. So we have shut these gifts down. We have blocked these gifts because we've been told, "Oh, that's not good," or "You shouldn't be doing that." And a lot of what we've been told those things to keep us small and to keep us more easily to manipulate, maneuver. And you asked about the energy of fear. When people are scared and afraid, that's the easiest time to manipulate and direct people the way you want to.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's so interesting because I believe this spiritual crisis that we're in right now is really that we are waking up to that divinity. We are waking up to the fact that we have been manipulated. We've been told things that aren't true. And I've been getting more bold in, like, just my own meditations and things, like, what if I wanted to ride a purple dinosaur? Could I create that? Why couldn't I? Right.
Yeah.
So it's our minds and what we've been told and the seeds that have been planted that, oh, in order to heal, you have to do these 20 things. And no, our bodies know how to heal. We just need to tap into that construct. We need to tap
Yeah.
into healing energy and
Yeah.
trust and know that, hey, we're calling in God source. We're calling in universal healing for ourselves. And we can heal like that,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah. And
doesn't
that's,
have to be hard.
yeah. And I've been guided in the healings that we do together or individually that we all have a divine blueprint. Now the word divine has an even more powerful meaning for me. That we all have this innate wisdom and knowledge, and we can call that in. And we have pushed that blueprint aside because somebody's told us it's not the right blueprint or we should do X, Y, and Z instead. But the reality is, we all have an innate knowledge and wisdom of exactly what we need when we need it.
Yes. Well,
Yes.
now we're gonna do a little
Pivot.
curve here, a little turn, and I'm gonna start it with something that one of my favorite people, Zach Bush, said. So I just came from a conference this weekend, and he was one of the keynote speakers at the Metabolic Health Conference, and he stood up on stage and he said, "We're all going to die." And I could see and feel people in the room like, oh, right, because some of the people in the room
Yep.
are actively in the cancering process. And he said, and yet we stop living because we're afraid we're going to die. And that really struck me that he's right. Like, we spend our time trying not to die. And if you look at the big biohacking movement that's going on right now, it's like, I'm going to live to be 150, right? It's all about living, living, living because they're afraid to die or they don't want to die. And so I wanted to just start with that to talk about the dying process and how you found one of your major gifts through that process. And maybe talk a little bit, I have goosebumps, talk a little bit about your
I do
dad,
too.
what, what,
Yeah.
what you went through with your dad and what you learned through that.
Okay. Yeah. I just got a little teary eyed. Yeah. So one of the, and a cat.
I know
One
Louis
of
just came up. He's like, we're
one
going to be talking about dark stuff, so I'm going to bring a little light, but it's not dark,
and
right?
it's
It's
not
light.
dark. Yeah, it's
It's
not
light.
dark at all. And my this is another just aside. Jen and I have a dog and his name is Lumi. And I named my dog and said, "Hey Jen, I just got a dog. I named him Lumi." And she goes, I have a cat named Lumi, right?" I had no idea.
And
So
they're
that's
both white, right? They're
they're
both these
both
little white
white.
beings. Yes.
Yep. So that's another light beam sister. We both have sidekicks. Okay. So back to what it's a gift that when I would meditate, would come to me, and initially it would come in the terms of you're a death doula, you're a death doula, and I thought I don't want to be a death doula. It's not something I'm interested in. I had astrological readings of my chart done, and people were like, "Oh, you spend a lot of time in the between worlds, the physical and the spiritual, and you're a spiritual guide, and you have mediumship skills." And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't feel right. And actually, it first started and kind of came to my awareness with my dad's wife, his second wife. So my mom died when I was 27. My dad got remarried to a lovely woman that unfortunately was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And what I saw with her is that her brain and her physical body were in two completely different places. And so her physical body was still very strong and very active, and her mental body and soul wasn't and was really ready to leave. And I did a session with a psychic who said, "Helen, she is desperately asking for your assistance and help." And I said, what do you mean?" And she's like, "Tap in and start listening." So that was kind of my first foray into learning and knowing I have a gift of communicating with people that can no longer communicate. And so it's people typically who are in the process of dying, or in a coma, have Alzheimer's or some other reason that they can no longer physically communicate. And so I worked with her, and I'll explain in a minute sort of the work that I do, but I did work with her And I know, whether other people in my life know that I helped smooth the passage for her to transition and pass. And then 6 months after that, my dad was in a similar. He was dying, and I worked with him as well to help him transition. And then it started kind of word of mouth. I'm like, okay, this is the death doula thing
You're
that I'm
like,
meant
dang
to
it,
be
here it is.
doing, but for me it's very different. So I downloaded I call it On Angel's Wings. So it's really a rebirth. So it's helping people transition from this earthly realm to the spiritual planes and their next journey. And I was always petrified, scared of death, didn't want to talk about death. Ooh, that's not something I want to be involved in. And now I've really shifted my perspective that it truly is a rebirth. And I know I now have a relationship with both my mother and my father, who are both deceased, that I'm creating new memories because I'm able to communicate with them. I'm able to get messages from them. I'm able to feel their presence. Yeah. So the work I do now, I call it On Angel's Wings, a sacred passage guide. So helping people transition from this world to the next.
And how, talk a little bit more about how you worked with Pauline and how you help families. So, what would that look like?
Yeah, so I'll just talk in general because I've done it with multiple people with Alzheimer's or some type of dementia, where the brain and the soul is ready to go, but the physical body isn't. And I think that's indicative. A lot of time there is sometimes a big disconnect between our physical bodies and our minds, right? And we have the ability to bring those two together and connect them. So I have found I have the gift of being able in that plane, right, with I'll add this in, right, with consent from the people. Like I check in with them and I'm like, do you want my assistance? Do you want my help? And it is bringing, I'm just gonna, these are the things that sometimes I hesitate to say in a public forum. And I'm like, nope, now's the time to just say it. So it is slowing down the body's functioning to match where the brain and the soul are. So I can energetically tap into somebody and slow the heart rate, the heartbeat, slow the organs, and kind of get them to a place. Quite honestly, it's a place of calm, because what happens is the soul's trying to leave and ready to go, and the body goes into fight or flight. And so the body gets jacked up energetically and is hanging on for dear life, right? Literally. And it's a matter of going in and calming the nervous system and slowing the bodily functions so that it comes into alignment with the soul. And in most of those cases, the people have passed in a much more peaceful way. It's not instantaneous. It's not like I'm doing the work and people immediately are passing, but it's creating the space and the calm in the body to allow the soul to step into, kind of managing the process and managing the transition.
Yeah, and I just the words I heard is it's like you're creating coherence between the soul and the body so they can work together in the transition.
Whew, yeah, it just gave me chills. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
That's what I was
beautiful
just
wave.
seeing as you were talking. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, you're creating coherence. So now the soul and the body can
Yeah, they're
work
not
together.
fighting. They're
They're not
because
fighting each other. They're not, yeah. Yeah, I have
Yeah,
goosebumps.
because so often they're at odds. And then the other thing I will do, we all have energy centers in our bodies, or the chakra systems, if people are familiar with those. And I energetically go in, and the way I do it and what my imagine is that I'm untying and unbinding those chakras so that they can lift up and transcend. which
Yeah,
again is
what
that not digging on for dear life. It's unraveling and untying so that the
they
soul can
have the
return.
freedom to go. Yeah, and it's interesting because at Barbara Brennan, she saw at least 1,000 people transition. She wanted to really understand what happens in the energy body when somebody passes. And she was the one who said the first three chakras literally have to disintegrate. They have to fall
Disintegrate.
away. So like you're untying, right? Because if those are still intact, you're still in physical form.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that from the heart area up, you're actually taking that energetic construct with you.
Yeah, and
So
to me, that's the
fascinating.
untying
Untying.
those
Yeah.
so they can go. And I literally see it as on angels' wings, right? That there's an army of angels or that person's guardian helping usher them up to heaven.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Amazing.
yeah, so that's one piece of it. And that's, again, most of the people that can't communicate and I'm able to communicate with them. So shifting gears a little bit, well, it's the same thing. It's people that can't communicate. The other thing I found is that no matter how much work somebody's done, no matter how much faith they have, most of the time people are scared.
Yeah.
And I'm able to tap in and communicate with them around what do you need? What do you need to feel safe to go? And sometimes it's, I just worked with somebody that they need the people left here on earth to know that they're sorry about something that they did, or to know that the person, child, spouse, caretaker is going to be okay, right? They're hanging on because they're worried about the person that they're leaving behind. Or flip that, sometimes it's I don't know where I'm going. So I've done these things in my life that I'm not proud of or that I'm not sure what's going to happen and I don't know where I'm going. And that's where I guess the way I would describe it is I'm a spiritual mediator or conduit to pull in the right people to have a conversation with the person who is transitioning. And I've seen Jesus show up. I've seen Mother Mary show up. I've seen Mary Magdalene show up. I've seen spouses that have transitioned before that are coming back and kind of saying everything's okay or you're forgiven. I worked with, there was somebody younger that I worked with that was in a coma and he had been done some bad things in his life and he was really scared about where he was going, and it was this mystical spiritual moment, and that's where Jesus showed up and said your sins are forgiven. And he passed away, I think, within a week or so.
Yeah.
So it's,
Amazing.
yeah, it's creating the space and the passage to reconcile those things again, because we're told so many things and we are put in a place of fear.
Right.
And the
Well,
dying process is not a fearful one, it's a beautiful one.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's so fascinating. Humans are interesting creatures because we don't feel safe in our physical bodies while we're alive, right? Most of us have traumas that we're like, okay, it's not safe to be here. And we work our whole lives to try to feel safe in our bodies and stay in our bodies. And then when it's time to go, we're like, we
I don't
don't,
want to go. Yeah.
right? And it's safe to go where we go next. So, it's really fascinating, but what a beautiful gift that you bring. I've been able to witness, you not necessarily in the moment, but the learnings and the information that comes to you. And it is of source and it is beautiful. And it does bring peace to a process that is a beautiful transition, right? And I'll go
And your
back to
mom
what
just said you have seen her in the moment. So
yes, that is true.
yeah.
But it's really, a lot of this is about, it is about our divinity. It's about tapping into the divinity that we all have and releasing the programming and the conditioning that we've all received about, you're not powerful. you are dependent on something or somebody else. And, for you to step in on angel's wings and to really support people in, the second biggest transition aside from birth, when we come in and we don't remember our birth, right?
Right. Right.
But we know we're dying. And, I love what you're sharing because it is a beautiful process, and helping people get out of fear and helping the families get out of fear is so critical and important.
Yeah, and that's one of the beautiful things is I'm often able to share messages most of the time, right? It's the family member calling me. It's not the person because they're no longer able to communicate. Um, and it's kind of I think they're ready to go, but I can't really tell. Or I'd like to support them to make this process easier because they're fighting, or struggling. And oftentimes I get messages that are, equally as healing for the family members as they are for the person who's transitioning. So it's both.
Right. So,
Yeah.
any final words of wisdom of helping people while they're alive and vibrant stay out of fear of the dying process?
That's a good one. I mean, for me, I've had to, and I've struggled with this, and still do sometimes. I mean, I've had to really, really sit with my definition of death, and that it's really not an ending; it's a rebirth and a new beginning. And so, the struggle is the difficulty is for the people we leave behind. And having been left behind several times myself, with my parents, that I'm not that pain is very hard. But I think there's so much beauty in knowing, again, we have this divine ability and capability to still communicate through these realms. And so taking peace in that, and whether you hear messages like I hear messages, that could be irrelevant. I talk to people all the time about ask to see a sign.
Right.
Whether it's a feather in a weird place, whether it's a song that comes on the radio that you're like, what? That's not the kind of station I was listening to when I just heard my mom's favorite song. The birds, right? The cardinals are a great sign of that, but it could be butterflies. So obviously they can't come to us in the same physical form that they come to us on earth, but they can absolutely come to us in other ways. So I guess the biggest message is you pay attention. If you
And
have
be
hope of.
open. Yeah, and be open. And it's interesting just to close out that, in many ways, so, my mom has come to me, my dad has come to me, your mom and dad have come to you, other people. And, yes, it's not in physical form, but there's almost like you see their divinity when they're not in physical form, right? In physical form, you're like, oh, my mom, my dad, we have all of the life experiences and the great experiences and the not so great. And so we have judgments and all of the things. And
Yeah.
when they're in this other place in their vitality and their vibrancy, you actually can see them as whole,
Yeah,
right?
healed and
Healed and
whole.
whole.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I guess that's the other thing, a lot of times it's in dreams. So I had somebody told me my mom was going to show, and I don't remember my dreams a lot, but someone was like, your mom's going to come to you in a dream. And a couple of weeks later, I mean, my mom it was a real hug. Like I could have been standing here getting a hug from my mom. So it's those things, and notice those things and know, like, don't brush that off. That's real. That's them trying to get your attention and to connect with you.
Yeah, and then just one last thing to add is that you've got to be still for that to happen, right? So
Yeah.
we're a culture of go, go, go. And I've worked with folks, and I know you have too. It's like, well, I'm waiting for a sign, I'm not getting anything. And I'm like, well, tell me about your day. Well, I get up at 5 and I work out, and then I go to the office, and then I work, and then I come home, and then I go for a bike ride. Right? It's just constant motion. I'm like, well, what would happen if you just went outside, stood by a tree, and asked for a message? And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden the messages start coming. So I think that's
Yeah.
a part
Yeah.
of it, is to take the time to be still, ask for the message, and then wait for the sign or the message to come
Yeah,
through.
that's great advice. And it's not always instantaneous, right? The way that spirit, it's not the same way of doing things as it is here. Sometimes it takes a little longer, or sometimes it comes in a different way than you would expect. Or if you're like, I wanted it to look, that's what you get. It should look like this. There are no shoulds.
Right.
It's just be open and pay attention.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Awesome. You're
I can talk to you
welcome.
forever, as you know. But thanks for your wisdom. I think it's an important time, as a lot of people are choosing to leave the planet right now. And this is very important information for folks to listen to and to remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
an
you.
honor.
And where can people find you on Angel's Wings?
Yeah, well, at the moment, the easiest way is probably through our healing center, Divine Health Alliance. So, divinehealthalliance.com. And there's an offering in our scheduling app called On Angel's Wings. So, at the moment, that's probably the easiest way to make that connection.
Okay. We'll make sure that's in the show notes. Thank you, Helen.
Awesome. Thank you.